Gonna Geeker, Steven Jondra here from GonnaGeek.com and from Better Podcasting. Today, doing another microphone review. This time, it's gonna be looking at this. It's the Advanced Audio DM20 microphone. What is this microphone? This microphone here is a super cardioid dynamic microphone that retails for $179 US on Advanced Audio's website. Why is it on my radar? Okay, there's two reasons why it really is on my radar. The first is that it's made from a company that is in my beautiful province of British Columbia, Canada. The second reason it's on my radar is because on the website, they talk about modeling the original RE20 microphone. Obviously, that's very interesting because as they point out on the website, what that means is they're really trying to enhance the vocal presence on it. So check it out. You can see all of the features, all of the details, all the specs on the Advanced Audio website. It's the DM20. Now, what exactly did I like about this microphone when I was testing it? Well, let's start off with one of the cool features that this microphone has. It has three different settings that you can have it on, three different levels of roll-off. Two of them are to do with the lower end, so you're looking to roll off sort of those lower bassy frequencies, and one of them is for the upper end. Now, as you hear me right now, I am rolling off the upper end, and I'll get to that in a minute. The other thing with this microphone here that I liked about it is the fact that when I held it, it felt fairly durable. I felt like it's something that probably would last a long time because it did feel quite strong. Now, I can't really comment on that for sure because I can only talk about initial impressions because I haven't had it that long, but I do want to mention that. The other thing that I want to mention that I thought was really good about it was the qualities within the middle and sort of the low end really reminded me of some of the more expensive microphones that I've heard and used. There is a couple of times where I compared myself to a co-host who was using a higher end microphone, and I noticed there was a lot of similar qualities in that middle lower range, which is awesome because this is worth a lot less money. Another pro, I have to say that the microphone that I usually use, which I'll let you explore that out, I was very impressed when I first started using it because I noticed that it did a really good job of reducing P's even without a windscreen, like P popping. This one even more so. I have noticed much less P popping. Now, what you don't know is when I podcast, I usually am looking off to the side here, and I noticed a lot less P popping when I was doing that. So very, very good good job to Advanced Audio for that. And the final thing that I gotta say that I like, and I went back and forth a little bit on this, was the silver look, because we live in a world of black microphones, and I like that it stood out from the backdrop that you see behind me. And my other microphones that I have that are black, they blended in there. So what are some of the things I didn't like about it? Well, I gotta say it, the color. I know I just said it was a pro, but the color was something that I had somebody comment on. So somebody commented, they said it was just too there was their wording. And obviously if I had one person say that, personally, I liked it. I thought it was okay. I didn't mind it. I went back and forth, but I had somebody comment on it. So maybe depending on the look you're looking for, might be a little bit too much for you. Other thing that I got to mention, of course, and this is probably the top con on this microphone, is that the high end is really noticeable on it. So much so that after I did my initial test, I had to basically proceed with my testing, turning off that high end. So enabling that high end roll off, because I just found it was too much there compared to everything else that I had tried and heard. And when I was sandwiched between different people, I noticed that I just sounded almost more nasally that way. So as a podcaster, I think that you're probably going to have to shut that off. But again, it's nice that it has that option. Now, speaking of the high end, I will say it sounds different than many of the other microphones. And what I mean by that is when I was doing a couple of podcasts, I was sandwiched between two people. One person was using a Blue Encore 100. One person was using an Electro Voice RE320. So two very different calibers and different styles of microphones. And they both had a similar sort of quality sound in that upper end, and mine just sounded different. Now, with that said, with more time, I think I could probably play a little bit more, get a little bit more comfortable with sort of settings and whatnot, and it would be less noticeable. But I will say it did sound a little bit different with sort of the usual DBX sort of methods that I use. And by that, I mean the sort of settings on the DBX 286 preamplifier that I use. Final thing that I got to say is from a noise rejection perspective, I noticed that I heard my kids who play upstairs when I podcast, I noticed them more on the couple shows that I was using it. Now you're going to hear the noise rejection is actually pretty good on it, but because I noticed them a couple of times and I really tend not to notice them that much with my other microphones, I got to mention that in the con section. But really, overall, when I look at it, the sort of style of pros clearly outweighs the style of cons, and that high end, I guess I'll call it an issue, is essentially alleviated by one of the features it has, the roll off. So those are the pros and the cons. Overall, I got to say, given the price point, given the feature set, given the sound that I had, and given the fact that I could see myself using this microphone on a regular basis, it really, really, really surprised me because it is much less expensive than many of the options out there. And I was very, very surprised to see the quality in that middle and low end and the feature set that was in it. And definitely, I think that you get very good listenable sound with it. And it is definitely worth considering if you're looking to upgrade from something like the microphones you see behind me. Absolutely, I would happily recommend checking out this microphone and looking into it. Now, here's the moment you've been waiting for. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and do the test for you. And as I mentioned, this microphone here right now, I'm running through the DBX 286 preamplifier. It has a bunch of different settings on there. I've got the high-end roll-off enabled. And what I want to do is just strip a bunch of this stuff so that you can hear it how it is in its raw form. So the first thing I'm going to do is I keep looking over this way because I'm going to go shut off the processor on the DBX so it is just acting as a preamplifier. So here we go. Now you're hearing it essentially in its raw form. All I've done is in post-production just brought up the levels a little bit to make sure that it is up at a reasonable level. And you are hearing this in its raw form. The DBX is not doing any enhancing whatsoever. Now, you probably want to know about compression if you're a podcaster, so let's just go ahead and in post-production, through the magic of post-production, maybe I'll do that, you are going to hear compression. That's right. I am now speaking with the same settings, but in post-production, I have added compression. As a reminder, I have the roll-off switch enabled on the DM20. So the high-end roll-off switch is enabled, which brings me beautifully to my next test, which in a second here, I'll shut off the compression, and now the microphone is operating completely flat. There is no compression added in post-production. The microphone settings are completely flat, and this is how it sounds on its regular settings. Now let's go ahead and do that again with some compression. And in post-production, again, the magic of post-production, I have added compression, and you are now hearing me with the microphone flat, but compression added in post-production. Let's roll through some more of these switches. I have just enabled the middle switch, and again, remove the compression, so you're hearing me just straight up flat sound with the middle roll-off switch enabled on the DM20. There's your cue for more compression. Compression is added again. Using the same levels of compression through this so that you can kind of compare apples to apples. And this is how it sounds with just the middle roll-off switch enabled. And of course, for this last test, I have put the far left switch, the lowest low-end roll-off. I've enabled it. Again, I'm talking flat, no compression enabled, and you are hearing me with simply the low-end roll-off enabled. And let's do 2 this time. That's right. There is your compression. Your compression is added in post-production. Again, on the DM20, the lowest roll-off switch is enabled. And I'll go ahead and put this flat for the next test. Now, here's what you're hearing right now. Again, it's flat sound. I have everything on default. And I'm going to go ahead and pop some P's with some weird incoherent sentence that probably will make no sense, of course. So let's go ahead and do that right now. My name is Stephen Jondrew, and I like to podcast about a variety of different podcast topics, including podcasting about podcasting on Better Podcasting with my co-host, Stargate Pioneer. The other podcast that I do is the official GonnaGeek.com show, which used to be called the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, which you can find at the Gonna Geek Podcast Network. I host that also with Stargate Pioneer and someone named Chris Farrell. That is the official GonnaGeek.com show on the Gonna Geek Podcast Network. Okay, again, I'm not trying to really promote myself, but I wanted you to hear that with the P's popping, and I wanted to make sure to do that and add some S's in there as well. So let's just go ahead and do that again, or something incoherent like that again, with some compression added. My name is Stephen Jondrew, and I like to podcast on a variety of different podcasts about a bunch of different topics, including podcasting about podcasting on a show called Better Podcasting, co-hosted with somebody named Stargate Pioneer. And I also do a podcast that is a general geek podcast called the official GonnaGeek.com show, and that is hosted on the Gonna Geek Network, the Gonna Geek Podcast Network. And it used to be called the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, and I host that also with Stargate Pioneer and with Chris Farrell. Okay, so hopefully that gave you something, and with the next test here, I'll go ahead and strip off the compression again and do a little bit of a extreme noise rejection test. All right, so now I'm talking into the side of the microphone, and of course I have turned off compression so you can hear what the noise rejection is doing right now. I'm talking into the side, and I like to do this test because it really does show you, if I'm talking to the side like this and you can sort of hear the change, you can kind of extrapolate further out what it will do. And the other one I like to do is the back test. That's right, I'm talking into the back of the microphone for the same purpose, so you can kind of hear what it does and extrapolate from there. Again, I'm not using any compression because I want you just to get an idea of the different noise rejection you're going to get from the microphone. And there you go. That's going to go ahead and close it up. I will just go ahead and flip the settings back on the way they were at the top of the show so it matches evenly, but that's the Advanced Audio DM20 microphone. Really happy I got a chance to test it. And again, I gotta say, I think it's worthy of looking into, especially given the price point compared with the feature set. And I know that it would be something, if I was using this microphone right now, I would be happy to do it. It would be absolutely fine to podcast with. It gives you listenable sound. It's a nice step up from the microphones you see behind. And I won't really do a test on here because I want to talk more about this, but I did compare it to some of those microphones, and yeah, absolutely miles above those microphones. And the reason I did that is because when you're looking at those lower price point, you want to make sure it's worth going up that step. And when it's not that massive of a span, some microphones might have the potential not to be really worth the money, but I got to say the DM20 is worth the extra money compared to some of the microphones you see behind me. So I think that it was a great microphone to test. I think the functionality is great, and I hope that my review helped you out. So thanks for checking this out again. It's the Advanced Audio DM20 Super Cardioid Dynamic Microphone, made from a wonderful company in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. And I hope you subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all of the future videos that we do there. Thanks for watching.